If you ever feel like you're struggling to get ahead and it's a never-ending battle, in this video I want to talk to you guys about how you can use what you have where you are to get ahead. So jumping right in, I really like this quote that I came up with, which is, "Brilliance is not the barrier from mediocrity to greatness. Greatness is making it work with what you've got." And so this was precipitated by reading the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Like, I started going through this process of thinking, man, this book is really old. It's from 2014. It's 10 years old at this point, at the time of recording this. And there's so many of these people that have told me about this book, and they haven't practiced these things. And so what I'm coming to the realization of is you already have so many tools and gifts and skills, and that's why you might see quotes like, "You already know what to do, go do it." But before we go down that whole path, what I want to say is you don't have to be you don't have to go to a perfect school. You don't have to go to Princeton. You don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. and have some crazy manifesting meditation schedule. You don't have to speak 20 languages and whatever. All those things are great. You should explore them if you feel called to, but you don't have to have all of these crazy things in order to become great, because you already have a skill set and a gift set that you can work with where you are. So talking about Peter Thiel in that book, aside from persistence, there's two key ingredients that I've noticed in the world's most successful entrepreneurs, but they could also be athletes. And the two things that I've noticed are, so number one is persistence. That's really a bonus. But number one is they seek to understand the principles of their sport. So with regard to Peter Thiel, they seek to understand business principles. Then the second piece is, which I want to talk about in this video, is they go all in on their gift. And so what am I on about? What am I talking about? I've talked about skills and gifts and abilities before. I don't know if I've ever talked about how to work with what you have or how to get better with what you have. So I don't know if you guys have seen content along these lines, but I've seen it more and more that it's never been easier to stand out. It's never been easier to start a business. It's never been easier to do a lot of these things than it is right now. And at first that used to bother me until I started to realize like how accurate it is. So for example, and I was talking about this in the intro, so many people read incredible books. Like, there are so many people in my life going through the startup world on venture capital, private equity, bootstraps, like so many people that I know that are recommending these books like Good to Great and 0 to 1 and 10x is easier than 2x, all these crazy business books, the 4-Hour Work Week. And what I'm realizing is a lot of people just read for status. And so one thing that you can do to stand out from so many people and to get ahead is to just implement the things that you're learning. Like, when you go to read a book, your first step number one is, okay, I'm lowering my resistance to be open to whatever ideas this person's going to expose me to. Because chances are you're going to rub up against ideas and concepts that are novel to you, and you might not necessarily agree with them. You want to be willing to take those puzzle pieces and put them somewhere. Then when you're done with the book, or when you're done with the chapter, or while you're reading something, where can you put that puzzle piece? And I think so many people go through these books, and it's like super clear to me. I mean, the stuff Peter Thiel was talking about in 2014, pre-COVID, all this stuff. I've been at so many, mergers and acquisitions situations where the company I'm working at is getting acquired and whatever, and it's like, never has this stuff, like the phrases 0 to 1 and all these things come up, but I have seen so few people implement the things that I'm reading in these books. And what I'm realizing is a way to stand out. So I'm going to speak from my experience, because that's all I know, is I'm not a brainiac. I didn't go to Princeton. I went to a great school, but it wasn't an Ivy League school. But what I do have and what I can do and what my gift is being an incredible listener. And beyond being an incredible listener, I'm willing to implement the things that I'm learning into my life. I figure out where those puzzle pieces fit in and what I can do with them. Otherwise, why read the book? Why watch the podcast? Why watch the video? Like, you're just wasting your time if you're just doing it for status. Like, you need to be doing something with the stuff you're learning. And so every time you read, you're consuming material that you're using to grow, it should change your life in some way, big or small. So don't read for status. Read for like getting these nuggets and figuring out how they can move you forward. Okay, So for me, I was talking about listening, right? Like that is a skill for me. So if you're a good listener, go all freaking in on being an even better listener. So what does that look like? That means you can invest in that gift by more intently listening. You can listen more frequently to conversations with friends and families and coworkers instead of maybe talking as much as you normally do. Start listening more. Start going in on that gift of being a good listener, and listen to other people until maybe until you could have different goals. You could have a different objective. Maybe your goal is to have someone be like, wow, you're a really great listener. Thanks for listening, whatever. So start to do it more. And then listen to more conversations from people that you respect. So friends, family, coworkers, that's like here, right? Then you probably have a level that you aspire to be. Start listening to those conversations. They might not be two-way, right? Because you might not be in the same room with, Peter Thiel or Russell Brunson, Myron Golden, Alex Hormozy, any of those people, right? You're probably not going to be in the same room with them where you can have a dialogue super easily. But just start listening in on those conversations. It could be podcasts, could be videos. But people that you respect are people you aspire to be. Start listening to those. Then what happens is, I've talked about this in previous videos, you'll start to think more and talk more. You'll start to use the words that they use and arrange them in similar ways. You'll start to think, speak, and act the way that they do, which is cool. But the whole point of this is you want to start working from the inside out. So you want to start using your skill of listening to then start deepening your understanding perhaps of business principles, right? So I'll listen to Myron talk about, my strength is listening. So I'll listen to somebody speak about certain business principles. I'll listen to Peter Thiel's audiobook, 0 to 1. I'll listen to Christopher Voss talk about how to negotiate and how to be a better communicator. And I'll use my gift to start then, kind of building outside of the nucleus, if you will, of like acquiring adjacent skills. And so now I'm at that second step, right? So the world's most successful people that I've observed they go all in on their gift and they seek to understand their game. So in my game, it's business principles, right? And so I'm using that gift that I have and I'm starting to expand out. If you go too far out of that, and I'm like, say it's like speaking, right? Like I'm not an expert speaker. I don't have a ton of experience in that. If I was just to jump from where I am to Toastmasters or whatever, it might be a little bit harder. In a way, I'm kind of I'm breaking skill acquisition into smaller bite-sized chunks that are already adjacent to things I'm already doing, already work with gifts that I already have. I love the quote, the easiest way to ride a horse is in the direction it's already going, and this is kind of that concept. So use your natural skills to start learning adjacent skills and abilities. You can do that through audiobooks, podcast videos, whatever, conversations, meetups, what have you. So I mentioned speaker. Maybe you are a good speaker. That's not necessarily me, but maybe you're a good speaker. So number one is like, how can you become an even more powerful orator? And so maybe you can partner with someone that struggles speaking. There's certainly entrepreneurs. I've seen a ton of founders on Co-Founder Finder, on Y Combinator, or on Well-Found, where they're like, it's like they're looking for a co-CEO or they're looking for a co-founder because they're not so good at leading the people side, or like they're not good at fundraising and communicating with investors. Like maybe you can partner with someone that struggles with speaking and you can use your gift in that way. And so that's one way. It could be a startup. It could be a school project if you're in school. It could be a meetup group. There's so many ways, big and small, for you to partner or find opportunities to start developing your speaking ability. It could even be making videos. And then again, using speaking to learn adjacent skills. So an example of this could be, okay, so you're going to a meetup group or you're starting to speak more, and then how can you use speaking to then start being in a more valuable skill, right? So persuasion or sales. Like you can start using your ability to speak in front of live audiences, in front of big audiences. Maybe you're going to trade shows. Maybe you're starting to take that speaking skill and now you're starting to have it add value to you by acquiring an adjacent value-added skill, if you will. So that's how I look at it. There are, many, many more gifts than this. I'm sure you guys have a different set than I do. Again, I think mine is listening and implementing, but figure out what yours are. And then the goal is you want to work from the inside out. So work with your natural strength, work with it, and then start to acquire skills outside of it as you leverage it to learn new things that add value to that skill. And then you get to the point where maybe you can move on to getting a new natural skill. I don't know, but I hope these things help you, and I'll see you in the next one.